Hey there, I'm meteorologist Hannah Fink, and we are going to break down the tropics. We've been watching this area of low pressure trying to form all weekend long, and now we have Tropical Depression 2 located in the eastern Gulf. This is a current radar picture of it. As you can see, looks a lot more organized than what we were looking at over the last 48-hour period, producing a lot of showers and thunderstorms. It's not well organized, but we're still seeing the potential for strengthening in the next 48-hour period. The visible satellite kind of gives a better picture on the overall structure of the system. The radar picture obviously showed the actual rotation happening. Well, this is a visible satellite, and it is showing a pretty defined circulation point and even a possible area center, which the hurricane hunters will be flying into later this afternoon to kind of help us define what that center is doing and what it looks like. We can even possibly see Tropical Storm Bertha in the next 24-hour period. Now, right now, that is not currently what's happening, but because of the favorable environment that this current setup is in, we could see that happening. So let's continue to go through all of our products. Tropical Depression 2, as of 10 a.m. this morning, 30-mile-per-hour wind gust, pressure at 10-11 millibars, and it's still moving quite slowly. Movement at north-northwest at 2 miles per hour. And the reason it's not moving very fast is because it's still fighting that area of low pressure off to the west as well as to the east at this time. Current location is 155 miles south of Panama City, Florida. So this is a current forecast path. We now have the cone since it has been designated as Tropical Depression 2. It's probably going to stay a depression until we get to our next advisory. According to our cone, by tomorrow morning, we possibly could see Tropical Storm Bertha, and then possibly in the next 48-hour period, we'll still probably continue to see it strengthen as it continues to move ahead, even possibly to about 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The current forecast keeps the system moving quite slowly to the west along the northern Gulf Coast through midweek before eventually approaching the upper Texas or Louisiana coastline later this week at maybe even 50 to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts or wind speeds at tropical storm levels. So now we're going to go over our tropical alerts. We do have a tropical storm warning now in effect for portions of the Florida Panhandle coastline. Additional watches and warnings could be required further west over the next couple of days as confidence in this track increases, as well as we get that data from the National Hurricane Center. But a little closer to home, I'm going to read this statement. We do have that tropical storm watch in place for the Panhandle of Florida, including our local counties of Okaloosa County, Escambia County, and Santa Rosa County. So that's one thing we're going to note there. We'll probably see this start to extend a little bit more along the Gulf Coast as we get further into the day today or even into tomorrow, including Mobile County, possibly Baldwin County, and then the coastline of Mississippi and even possibly into Louisiana. They're probably going to slowly add this as we go on throughout the day. Now, our steering current as of right now, we have that circle that is currently in the Gulf. That is that low pressure system. I'm going to point it out just to make sure we're all on the same page here. This right here is the tropical system trying to form. The red shading, those are those high pressure systems that have been playing tug of war with this exact system all weekend long. Well, that one that's located off to the west is going to continue its path going into the central United States, and that'll allow the tropical depression or possible tropical storm Bertha to have more movement. So it will move a little bit more freely going into the next couple of days as it moves into the central United States. So this will continue on, and then that high pressure is expected to eventually strengthen, but it may not help us out directly, but it could cause it to move to the west-northwest instead of the northwest. So it could have a more westerly turn compared to what we were originally thinking when we thought it probably was going to stay in the Gulf, but that high pressure system is not looking as strong as what we once thought earlier in this weekend. This just shows that things change quite dramatically and quite quickly across our weather pattern here in the Gulf Coast. But one thing's for sure, there is some ingredients that are acting and helping fuel this storm at this time. So sea surface temperatures are quite warm, and they are going to help aid in the strengthening of this storm. And on top of it, we don't have a lot of wind shear in place. So this is later on in the week. We're starting to see some of that wind shear start to develop, but it almost develops behind the storm on the path that we're seeing it go. So I'm going to let it loop back to where we're at now. Just give it a minute here where it'll get back to our current picture. There it is. As you can see, there is no current wind shear in the Gulf. Wind shear kind of disrupts organization. It doesn't prevent it, but it can help aid in the fact that it will not continue to strengthen, if that makes sense. So it can disrupt its organizational period, but it's not going to prevent it from organizing. So that is one thing that we're looking at, but maybe further into the week it could help out. But based off of models right now, we're seeing a strengthening storm and a possible tropical storm forming in the Gulf. And it does become a tropical storm, it will become Bertha. That is the next named storm on our 2026 hurricane names for this current season. So there are still some things that we don't know: where landfall will occur, how strong it will become, and where the heaviest rain is going to set up. So let's talk about some local impacts. This is what we do know currently. It's going to bring scattered to numerous storms across the Gulf Coast as tropical moisture will increase across the area. It's going to bring stronger winds, especially near the coastline, which will cause higher seas across local marine waters, which is not good for boaters, and then high surf and increasing rip currents. So we could see dangerous rip currents by as early as Tuesday. That's one thing to note there. And obviously, it's not Invest 91 anymore. We are now on Tropical Depression 2. These are what we're expecting to set up. Dangerous surf, so life-threatening surf at our beaches this week. Breezy conditions, breezy near the coastline as the system does move closer to us. And we're not expecting direct impacts, but we are going to see certain impacts in regards to this storm as it moves through the Gulf. So here's our wind gust forecast. As you can see, starts to pick up a little bit as it makes its way to the panhandle of Florida. We're going to see about 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts. This is just one of our models. Keep that in mind. But as it moves closer to us, our wind speeds start to pick up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour in the early morning hours on Tuesday, and they'll continue to pick up to about 30 to even possibly 40 miles per hour by the afternoon hours on Tuesday. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Gusty winds look to be our biggest issue, especially near the coastline, which will obviously churn up the Gulf and cause dangerous rip currents, which is not great news, just mainly for the fact a lot of people are still visiting our Gulf Coast waters. It's still the summertime. Today we have that low risk of rip currents. Tomorrow we'll see a medium risk of rip currents at our Alabama beaches, then a high risk of rip currents at our Florida beaches. Then the entire coastline will see that high risk of rip currents on Tuesday and through the rest of next week. Would not be surprised if we saw double red flags, especially on Tuesday as well as Wednesday, just based off of some of the data we're looking at. But do keep in mind, this is likely to continue changing. We will see the rip current forecast change each and every day. We could see double red flags as early as tomorrow as well. And then on top of it, we're expecting a rainmaker. Obviously, the highest amount of rain as of right now looks to be in the central Gulf, where we could see up to 15 inches of rain. Locally, that has started to add to about 2 to 3 inches of rain, even possibly up to 4 inches of rain in certain locations, especially closer to the coastline. And then we could also see some localized flooding of about 5 to 6 inches of rain, which is why we do have that flash flood potential for today as well as the next coming days as well. It's only a marginal risk, but because we're continuing to see that rainfall, that's why we're going to stay under that marginal risk. And it does highlight a little bit more towards the coastline of starting tomorrow, Tuesday, and possibly into Wednesday as well. Depending on how much rain we get from the system, this could upgrade to a slight risk as well. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. The key takeaway is this is a slow-moving tropical system, and those often produce the greatest forecast challenges and causes a lot of uncertainty. Small changes in the track over the next several days could make a big difference in who experiences the heaviest rain and the strongest winds. We'll continue to monitor every advisory from the National Hurricane Center and provide updates as the forecast evolves a bit more. Obviously, stay weather aware. You do not need to worry. We are here to keep you updated. We are here to keep you safe. There's no need to panic now. This is simply the time to keep checking back in for the latest information. We will keep you updated as things start to evolve a little bit more in the forecast. Things become a little bit more fine-tuned as the National Hurricane Center produces their outlooks and their updates, and then also the hurricane hunters will be flying 2 missions today, and that'll probably start to increase as we go into next week now that we have Tropical Depression 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll continue to keep you updated on air, online, and on all social media platforms.